Are you kidding me? That's what?
Yeah, every so often it happens that Ryan is right.
100% right. Not even a little bit right.
Tucker Pullman, 2 points last game.
No kidding.
My man!
Hey, neither does me running shirtless, but that turned out very well.
Welcome to the PP1 podcast.
Welcome back, friends. Welcome to another episode. This might even just be an episode of the PP1 podcast playoffs post-game show on the Hockey Podcast Network, a menagerie of hockey podcasts, hockey shows. Also, DraftKings, promo code THPN. Go to DraftKings, sign up, use the promo code THPN. Make yourself some money. Gamble. People are doing it.
Gamble
like the Canucks gambled on this first game. They're like, hey, we're going to take the first period off, go against everything that we learned in the last round, and we're just going to work.
Not everything we learned. If it was everything we learned, it would be like 3 shots in the first or something like that and be away with like a 1-goal lead.
That's probably true. Welcome to the show, folks. Feel free to chat along. I think we're live on Facebook again, so that's cool. That's YouTube, yeah, I know. I was like, it didn't give me a little warning, so that's a bonus. My Twitter and the PP1 Twitter. I'm here with a very good friend of mine. He's been here since day one. Third line vibes himself, Mr. Teddy Wong. How you doing, bro?
Good, man. That was a wild game. I'm like trying to keep it like even keel in my house and not have like too big of a freak out, but man.
And you can't because the game got drunk really quickly.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was nuts. I was chatting with like in conversations with like 3 or 4 different people, and everybody was feeling the same way. I think we all felt like we were out of this game.
Not true.
Not
true. I tweeted out.
From a score perspective, it looked like we were out of this game, right? But like it never felt like we were out of the game.
Yeah.
It didn't feel out of reach. I didn't at any point feel like we can't hang with this team. The Vancouver Canucks are in over their heads. I feel like they were controlling play for the most part, other than like there was a lot of back and forth where lots of time spent in zone and trying to gather off shots, but it was like this team isn't unbeatable. Like this is a team that we can get back on. That was a couple of unfortunate goals, and lo and behold, it was the Zadorov and Garland show late, right? I mean, wow, that was something else. That was crazy.
It's so telling of what this team's been like. I mean, this season, it feels like that was one of those games where it was very much like a microcosm of the entire season in that one game, or macrocosm. Did I use that right?
I don't know.
It was like this game was a reference to the rest of a microcosm. I'm pretty sure is the word that belongs there. And they go down, they take I was driving home when they took that penalty. So that's cool. And then they go down. I'm like, hi, man. I'm like, great. Here we go. I'm not even home, and this game might be over by the time I get into the house. Like, just knowing how the Oilers can handle a team, right? Their power play is so lethal.
And it showed up again.
And 100%. Yeah, it was ready to go. And then you just see, like, Shilov's just looked like an absolute shadow out there for, I mean, a lot of those goals. Like, just the one that got under the pad, the one, like, just unfortunate stuff where, like, it's almost like Ian Clark was probably just shaking his head. He's like, dude, back to basics here. Like, it felt like, okay, maybe they come back in the third with Casey DeSmith, or maybe they're just like, listen, we had a bad start. We're going to roll with you, and let's just try to win it back as a team.
Yeah, there was like some extra resolve there. And I mean, we were going into the intermission and Rudy was talking about it's time to get Silos out of there. A couple quick goals, looks rattled, like get the vet in there, stay to Smith. And I think like Tocchet did what Tocchet's done so many times this season and just like sort of stayed calm, stayed the course, sort of trust the process, which is, and it's kind of a funny thing to say. Shout out to trust the process.
Shout out.
But they just stayed with it, right? I mean, he didn't get too over. I think he saw early on that there was some weird breakdowns there, and it wasn't all, Silov's chance. And I think pulling him really makes things cut and dry after that point, right? It's harder to go back to him past that point and let him finish out, ride out the game and carry consistency and leave yourself open for the next game to try to decide who you're going to start. It's really only DeSmith's show if you pull Artie in this spot, right? And I think, there's some balls of steel to leave him in there and to reset and regame plan coming out of the first period. It was way different than the way that they attacked the second, and then it was completely different again on how they went after it in the third and made another adjustment. So this is Talkett, right? This is Talkett getting his rim under control. This is Talkett leaning on his guys to play very distinct roles in this series, because very different, and
Yeah.
I think the team followed suit. It was like really, really fun to watch. That was a super fun game. Stressful,
Man,
but super fun.
It was bonkers. It was, so they were down, was it 4-1? And I think that's when I tweeted out, I said, game ain't over, folks. This is still quite doable.
Yeah.
And like you said, it had this vibe, like, you know, we know the Canucks, and this is definitely not going to be going away, knowing that this team has come back so many times in ways we have never seen. And sure, it looked not so great on the goaltending side, but they were still throwing hits. Even in the second period, like Shelov's, like a couple of those glove saves where he just kind of does his snatch, you know, like the almost like a first baseman kind of play, right? Where he just kind of makes the catch out front. And it just seemed there was a few stupid little plays behind the net where I thought, oh crap. And then you look in the third, and once again, you know, the Nugent Hopkins shot instead of the post, right? We're talking about Nashville, the post, you know, the Colton Sissa's post or the Nugent Hopkins miss, you know, and lo and behold, they go and get that next goal. They get the next goal, and then they get the next goal. So the Oilers take two quick, totally change the vibe in the building, and yet the game wasn't over still, which is bizarre.
And they looked dangerous right up until the final second.
Yeah, oh man, leave it to the Canucks to make you stress. Like, I don't know how your heart's doing, buddy, but you know, that wasn't healthy for anybody to watch that last minute and a half. And yet it's almost like we're so used to everything that always seems to happen. And it was like they played a super calm in their own zone because they had 6 guys in there, but they played that last minute and a half pretty calm. It looked tactful, tactical. Sorry, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
it was very pointed. They're being like overwhelmed, I think, when they brought on the extra skater, but it did look very pointed in what they were trying to do. Like, nobody was missing their assignments. There was nobody dropping off coverage or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it was weird watching, like, even the post game with McDavid, like, no shots for McDavid this game.
That was a tough one to watch. If you, like, for everybody, I'm going to steal this show for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Connor McDavid, I've been chatting with our buddy Luke. He's a big Oilers fan. He's not going to crash our show tonight, unfortunately. But
great dude.
Connor, great dude. Connor McDavid, this is one of those games where they didn't wake him up kind of thing. And like, he's the best player on the planet. And he looked like, I remember there was I think it was like in the second period, I'm like, I don't remember hearing McDavid's name at all this game. And then I think he had an assist. I'm like, okay, well, he's playing. That's something. If you keep Connor McDavid in check, I mean, guys, we all know he can steal a show in a heartbeat. But he looked pedestrian. So did Pedersen, but
that's always the thing. Like, you can't hope to stop him. You can only hope to contain him. And they did contain him, right? I mean, he had an assist. He still was a factor in the game, right? He was still facilitating down low, and was still a player. I mean, I think back to that play when he was burning down the wing, and, you know, Hronek had to peel off and then cut him down on the angle and play him into the boards and just play him rough enough, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's not the kind of guy that, like, you know, I thought there for a second, it's hard for us to tell because the chanting is just so frequent, but I thought they were sarcastically chanting McDavid's name. And all I was thinking to myself was, shut it.
Yeah.
Please shut it. Like, chant anybody else's name. Please don't chant this guy's name. If you're going to cover him tough, play him hard, but, like, don't poke the bear, right? Like, let this sleeping giant lie. And I think it's sort of indicative to go back to the fact that it was really Miller that was the straw stirring the drink in Nashville over the last little bit. And it's not that he was, like, unseen or anything like that. He was more impactful than David in this series, but he didn't take it over like he did in previous games. And I think the large part of that had to do with the defensive assignment that he was sticking to and covering McDavid, and the same with Lindholm. And Lindholm looked fantastic this game. Like, I mean, now we're starting to see what we gave up all of that all for, right? I mean, this
worry
is the
about regular
guy that we
season.
traded for.
Yeah, don't worry about the regular season. And we talked about this. I think if you're a mature hockey fan and you saw what was going on in the regular season, I mean, you hoped anyway that this is what you were eventually going to get when it got serious.
Mhm.
And I mean, Mr. 81, he's on the screen right now. I mean, on the doorstep gets that first one. Like, it was a role players kind of game tonight for sure. Quinn Hughes still had a couple awesome little button hooks. Like, he's still, I'm sure he's hurting, but he looked.
Yeah, he just looked the same. That's for sure.
He definitely looked. He didn't look like like peak Quinn Hughes, but he definitely maybe like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10, which is still better than pretty much anyone else on the ice. So
And that third line, I mean, that's the second line right now. Like, let's just call it a spade.
yeah.
It could even be the first line right now, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I know. Well, obviously, we notice Garland. I feel like we notice Garley every time he has the puck, right?
Man,
And
doing burnouts again.
Just doing burnouts, right? He was just ripping that Corolla around, having a great time.
Yeah.
And then Lindholm is exactly what you need Lindholm to do. Right-handed, strong on the draw, covers defensively, plays more physical than I ever thought he would.
Yeah.
And then you had Joshua. I mean, notice Joshua all night. Dak was everywhere. Big hits, leaning on guys, skates so much faster than I thought he could. More so than I recognized during the regular season. And those guys are starting to get their sort of their mojo back, their continuity back for drop plays and weave plays and in and out and stuff like that. And it looks really good. It looks like that's a line that we can sort of depend on moving forward. And quite honestly, we're going to have to.
Yeah, I think so. I think Pettersson's still not there yet. And I think this is the kind of series you want him to step up. But there was some shots. Like, what was your vibe on PD after game one? I mean, there's so much to unpack in this game. It feels like we saw 3 games in one.
I think the first period was really tough, right? He only played 3.5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
Second period rolls around. We're a little bit out of the penalty troubles. Looks far more engaged than he did in the first period. Saw him throw some big hits up there. He was leaning on guys defensively. He still looked very trusted in the defensive zone. I think rolled him out on the power play. I think he just missed on the short side. Like, we're starting to see him sort of be more assertive now with the puck a little bit. And I think when I thought it was going to break out, I don't know if you remember during that power play, he got the zone, and instead of sort of flipping it off to the half board, left or right, it was open and he just went for it. He just took what was given to him, and then he just drove the net. Like he just walked down Main Street and got a shot on net. And Skinner fought it off. I think it was a blocker save, but it was more dangerous shot than anything that I think we had seen in the last little bit. It was him being more assertive, making that play by taking what was available to him and then just putting it on net, because you just never know, right? And I think
for sure,
if we can start to see that more assertive PD come back, and then he can start ratcheting up his minutes, because right now they're a little bit sheltered. There's a little bit more important players on the ice in terms of 2 centers that are out there covering right now.
Yeah.
If we can just find his game a little bit more, and it's fucking hard, man, when you got a guy like Mikheyev playing on that line offensively, and Höglander, for all the good things he does, he still looks like a kid in his first playoffs, right? I mean, you can't depend on him to make that stuff. And if you got a world-class player like Petey, I really would like to see them put some more quality line mates with him, but they're in a tough spot. Like, who do you break up to put with him?
Well, that's the thing. Like, everyone wants the Lotto line. I think I do too, but it comes at a cost, right? It comes at a cost of having multiple lines that, I mean, sure, that line isn't scoring, but it's giving you another look while the other lines are like, do you load up on 2 and hopefully that everything gets solved on those 2 lines? And no, I don't think you can do that. I think, is there an opportunity to probably show flashes of it, in game? I think so. But I guess you got to keep going back to what you're going to hope is going to work. Because I think there probably is something there. I mean, the speed is there for sure with PD and Mikheyev. And I mean, I like Mikheyev's game tonight. I thought he was going to score. And
I think Mikheyev's going to score every game.
Yeah, he had it's a good point. He had a couple good looks.
Like Yannick Hansen breakaways, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so tough. Like, you really do want that Lotto line going. And I mean, is it the kind of series where, I mean, it was definitely an open game. Like, it definitely had a little bit of run and gun in there, right? So I mean, that's
Yeah,
kind
what
of
was the shot
thankfully
total? What was the shot total in this game? Do you know? I can look it up. Keep talking.
it was up there. Um, I mean, not for Edmonton for the last like half the game, basically, but it it's tough. Like, do you? Here we go, 24-18 for Canucks. They just
There you
literally
go.
showed it on the screen. Do you just load up on those two lines and just hope that you can just take it to them? I mean,
Well, they already are, right? I
but
mean,
for a whole series, though, I mean, like, do you just be like, "Hey, we really need PD going, so we have to lotto line this until we're out of it"? But does that come at the expense of maybe some other assignments getting missed? Like, it's the defensive part of Pettersson that I think keeps this game going when the other two lines are kind of off. You know what I mean? Like,
so like crazy thing, right? Okay, PD played 19 minutes and 9 seconds, right? I mean, you see Brock in there at 21 and a half, Miller with
Brock's MVP game.
22, almost 23. And then the next high minute man is PD, right? So I mean, he's getting his looks, he's getting his ice time. He played more than Lindholm, who had a goal and assist this game.
Yeah.
So they're obviously working on getting him going. So like, can they not like, because we really feel like this line isn't going to be the one that figures it out. Like, can they not just like sprinkle in a PD shift in Suter's spot over
Yeah.
time? I mean, I guess it's harder now looking at the ice time minute. Him playing 19 is probably more difficult to find those spots to get him in if you want to just continue to roll three lines. But they got to find something to get him going a little bit, and hopefully this is a bit of a, not a breakout, but a bit of a, oh, okay, like I got this, right?
Or do you go to the lotto line as like a different look? You know, go into game 2 and you're like, okay, this is what it looked like. They're going to game plan for this, and then they throw out, they're like, actually, we're going to go lotto line, and we got to get this thing going.
Yeah,
and
it's possible.
Now you have to defend differently, right?
I'll play devil's advocate though. Like, how do you go to the lotto line now that you're looking at a banged up Draisaitl and they just held Connor McDavid to no shots on net?
I think you just put the foot on the throat and just hopefully you strangle them out to go to Edmonton. Like, do you just like overload and put all your eggs in the basket to try to go up 2-0 and guarantee yourself a worst case game 6? Like, just to take the lead in the series, like maybe it costs you a little bit, but you get the win right away, and then maybe it works. Who knows? But I mean, there's depth on this team. It's not incredible depth, but I mean, tonight was a great example of what a team win looks like.
Yeah.
Because when things fell apart, a lot of other parts, like, man, how many millions of dollars is it going to take to keep Zadorov in Vancouver?
Man, after this playoffs, like I think at this point, if they want to keep Zadorov, they're gonna have to decide now, right? And
that's
so,
like, what do you do? Like, we talked about this last time, but
which one of your towers do you want? I mean, I think we all like Zadorov. I think that's an easy question, but one of these guys is right-handed and the other's not. One of these guys is going to cost significantly less, and the other is going to like get the bag.
But one's a game breaker. One throws it out on the offensive, like he's going to offend you in a way you do not like.
Yeah.
And on the hockey stick, like,
the guy's an elephant, man. He just does not forget. He's got a long memory.
Like, I almost feel like I feel bad for Evander Kane or Leon Draisaitl if they rub him the wrong way next game, because they're going to pay for it. And
I don't feel bad for Evander Kane. And that guy is,
you know what I mean?
For everything that Biddy wants to say about Evander Kane, that guy doesn't shy away from shit.
No, he doesn't. I'm just saying, like, he's going to have a really rough night if he angers that beast. Because, I mean, we finally have a guy where, like, it's not like he's violent, but, like, the way he plays is violent. Like, I wouldn't want to get hit by him. Like, he plays clean, but he's so physical. And, I mean, of course it goes in, and, you know, our group chat's going off, right? I'm Big Z. Like, it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, it was big hits by Z. Myers was steady. There was a couple of times he got tracked down, I think, and lost the puck.
Yeah.
There was, you know, a huge hit, like a backward skating hit where sort of like laid the hip into a guy behind the boards by Susie.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are like, Hronek was physical with McDavid.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of great defensive plays by Hughes, where really he's probably the only guy to get back. And early on, when this game first started, it was like, man, Ian Cole looks like he wants to do something. And then it was like,
And then he did, unfortunately.
oh wait, Ian Cole make a real bad play there. And then it was like, oh, Ian Cole, like that's a great shot on net. He's back in the game. And it was like, I was tweeting it like, the Cole giveth and the Cole taketh away, right?
Oh.
Like, and then right away he makes another mistake. He's the guy late, and he's in screening Steelov's on that shot, and now it's on him again, right? So I think if he can sort of get back to playing that sort of steady game, that quiet steady game where he doesn't have to impact it too much, and he's obviously an ace. He's our best penalty killer out there from the defensive end. Just settle back into that role a little bit. I think that these mistakes probably don't happen early on.
I was gonna say I wanted to get into that too. Like, is this just a game you're like, we're going to forget it as far as Ian Cole is concerned? Like, listen, man, you had a bad start to your game. You helped out on the one goal. All is forgiven. Like, is it that kind of game?
I think he was just like the vet. He just wanted to take charge out there. And I think that's just not his role in this point, right? I mean, so
yeah,
I agree. I think he's going to just forget. And I think that he's got a short memory when it comes to that stuff, and I think he'll be able to just turn it around, start his next game, and settle back into that comfortable thing that he does, which is just like own the defensive side of the puck, and play smart and play physical, and have all this experience that obviously this team is leaning on right now.
Yeah, there's experience.
They picked him up this time, right? They picked him up this time, where I feel like it was him sort of picking things up, especially from a penalty kill perspective in that last series.
Yeah.
So it was good to see other people step up.
It was good to see. I would say, like, if you look at this game, let's take the goaltending out for a second on both sides, because I think the way this game went, like, both goaltenders had a brain fart moment, and it cost them at different points of the game. Unfortunately for Edmonton, it cost them on the wrong part of the game. I mean, if that happens in the middle game, I think Edmonton still could potentially bounce back, but it happened at the end, whereas Vancouver's gaffe happened, early enough where they could bounce back. If you look at the Canucks for game one, based on like things that you were hoping that they would learn from, do you feel that like, what out of 10, what would you rate their discipline? 10 being amazing. Like
discipline from a penalty perspective, or just discipline for how they played the Oilers and not making mistakes? And
I think let's include both, because I think the penalties themselves, I mean, the first period is a wash. I think, well, it's not a wash, but they learned from a lot of their mistakes and they played quite smart. What would you rate their discipline for the game?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it was like about a 7, like,
okay, yeah,
maybe like a low end 7. I'm sure you're not going to give me half points here, but I think
but a Rutland
there was some errors there, right? Like errors that they definitely could have avoided, right? I mean, there's no way that we should be, especially a guy like Cole, we shouldn't be taking a too many men penalty, especially at that juncture in the game. And they've done that too many times to hurt themselves already during this playoffs.
Yeah.
So there's that. I think there's a couple of, I don't want to call them breakdowns on the power play, because that team is just so lethal. But I think they did a really good job at like sort of managing, how they're treating this game from a physical perspective, not getting themselves into penalty trouble. So we'll give them a bump up on that. I think managing the puck, they were sort of even strength. I had no concerns whatsoever with this squad and how they were doing it. And yeah, there was times that we got hemmed in, but then the only other thing is like the power play is it's getting back to the point again where it's like, can we please decline? Like, I feel like it sort of sucks momentum away a little bit, but they sort of needed that time and they're going to have to figure out how to gain the zone a lot easier to sort of continue to put pressure on this team, because that Edmonton squad and their penalty kill looks great because you can't even get zone on them.
Yeah, they still can just change the game. They just showed a clip. I was going to bring this up. How big was that 4-on-4? Like, Zadorov and it was Draisaitl that went off, right? I think those were the two. Pretty sure. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Anyway, that 4-on-4, as soon as they went to 4-on-4, I'm like, oh man, this might be the break we need, because they play so well at 5-on-5. I'm like, but if they have one less guy on the ice, I'm like, the Canucks know how to open it up a little bit. And the Oilers, I find they know how to, like, they enjoy a lot of ice too, but I think the Canucks are very, very smart, I guess is how I'd want to say it, on how they use the ice when they've been given a little bit more. They realize they're like, okay, this is where, like, not trick plays, but where they can get a little bit more on the creative side. Like, it's not a 3-on-3 type thing, but I find that Vancouver does thrive when it's 4-on-4 this season. And
Yeah,
this
I
was
mean,
a great example when they scored that goal.
they've looked pretty good at 4-on-4, and I think this team has really looked good at anything that's not a power play, right? I mean, even the penalty kill has looked really strong late down. It was like middle of the pack, I think, for a while there, and then it's really come together in the last little bit. And as we
Yeah.
talked about it before, I think Cole's had a huge role in that.
Yeah.
And then, Lindholm's game elevating, Bluger getting additional minutes. Like, those are really important guys for us, right? And
Bluger and PDG, I thought both had pretty decent games tonight.
yeah, like
Like just little things. I'm like, oh, like there was the one they're like, oh, looks like Di Giuseppe is going off. I'm like, no, he's staying on, and I'm like, it was that extra like 15 seconds that he stayed on the ice to just
yeah, and it looked real unsure too, right? It's like, no, okay, yeah, no, I'm going, right?
Yeah.
Like it was strange. There was some really glaring mistakes, but then there was also a lot of classic, freaking really Desjardins stuff. A lot of little things, right? Like the little things real good. Like
Yeah.
so, I am optimistic for a bunch of storylines that are heading out of this game. Like I am really interested to see what's going on with Draisaitl. I think.
So Luke was
all.
saying, Knobloch said it was cramps
Oh, okay.
and equipment. So equipment likely was that skate, right?
Right.
Does it look like he was kind of wonky? And then, I mean, cramps. That's a tough one.
Cramps would be a grimace. Yeah, that makes sense.
But
And then,
how do you get cramps in the playoffs though if you're him? Like the dude's elite as a body.
Schneider.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's true. Fair enough. Good point.
So the other thing is that as good as Stuart Skinner's looked in the early part of this playoffs, right, and after knowing what happened last year, we're a bit of recent history away from that being a problem again, right? So let's make it a problem, right?
I was kind of thinking that too. I'm like, they're all on Stuart Skinner and this, that, but I mean, how many times in the last year and a bit too, like, have they still questioned that? Like, as good as he's been, there's still a decent question mark. There is, and I'm not saying that we've got a great situation. Like you talk about Demko, and like, listen, as good as he is, like, he's injury prone, and do we run with that continually? That's a tough one because I mean, you want to rely on a guy. We have a different problem. They've got a guy like it's like if he gets shaken, like, all right, well, we can come back in the series, no problem.
It's not like he's just been this train wreck or anything like that. I'm not going there with this, but like, he's marginally older than Seelovs. He's got one full season of experience over Seelovs, and these guys they're both unproven from a pedigree standpoint to be winners. But the one difference with Skinner is that he's proven that he can self-destruct.
Yeah,
and I think that's what they have to sort of go after. And it's no different than other teams targeting Hughes or teams targeting McDavid or Draisaitl or Pettersson, right? I mean, if a goalie's got a problem and it's between the ears, you got to target that, period. And that's
the wrong place to be mentally unstable.
That's the exact reason why Vancouver has been comfortable going with Artie, because he's looked calm even when things are shaky, right? I mean, let in a couple of goals there, but stayed in the net, stayed strong, continued to fight, and then looked solid as the game closed out. Like,
he got comfortable at the end, didn't he?
He looked back to normal. Like, he just shook it off, and I think that's so detrimental to just yank a guy after that. And I think that's where Talkett made a good non-call, right? To just leave it. We got you. You're in this game still. You're not coming out. Get out there and finish it off.
Like, in all honesty, though, like, let's take the game script definitely was pretty incredible. But when all those goals were happening, what was your take away your podcast hat, take away your analytics hat for a second? Like, what was your feeling? Like, did you think DeSmith was maybe going to be coming in?
No,
I think so.
I didn't. After that first period, I heard them talking about. Obviously, we all heard them talking about what they thought that Talkett should be doing on this next play there, and I was like, how many times this year has Talkett done the exact opposite as everybody thought that he should do, and how many times has it paid off for us?
A lot.
I just didn't think that they were gonna go away from Seelovs on that.
That's why I like you. That's why you're steady Eddie. You're actually steady Teddy.
Steady. Okay. Yeah, I'll
I
take
like
it.
that. That's good. I just came up with that.
Okay.
Can I take a second here and
Please. Yeah.
this is not waxing poetic, but folks, in case you haven't, I'm going to try to stay on the mic here. In case you haven't seen our wicked awesome tee, I think I still have blue's still there. So if you want a blue one, the pink one is moving like you wouldn't. It's moving like Connor Garland. So this thing is doing donuts in my den here. $30. Our boy Dave, our hops manager, is getting the pink one as well. Who would have
Nice.
thought that the pink one would be the one that goes first?
I
We
mean,
just thought it looked
didn't
cool.
You just assume that it would be the one that goes first.
I mean, it worked the bubblegum kind of look, but I know how like normal colors work for most people, but the pink one's done pretty well. $30. Come and get one. DM either of us, Facebook, whatever. If it's in town, we'll meet up. We can have a coffee. I'm cool with that. BMAC, our boy's got one. He's gonna be rocking it.
Yeah.
And what's not to like. Fun story. I'm gonna take away from Canucks for a second. So we're on the ball field on Monday. I just made it. I thought it was probably gonna be a game I missed completely, but turns out I had probably one of my most effortless games of the season. And by that I mean I didn't play.
Weren't there.
Yeah, because I didn't play. So we're sharing a beer, and I get a text from my wife saying our youngest might need to go get x-rays. I'm like, okay, fill me in. What happened? It's like 9:00. And so she sends me a picture of both of her wrists, and one looks kind of purpley mangled. I'm like, oh, this is sweet. She's like, no rush, but we're probably gonna have to go to Emerge and like get it checked out. Okay, guys, I gotta leave. So go home. She shows me her wrist, pretty tender. 4 hours later, I stroll into the house about 2 a.m. She has her first ever.
That's how late you were there. Jeez.
Oh man, it sucked. I did not sleep. So we're waiting in streaming. Or no, sorry, we're waiting in the X-ray thing the first time, and there's a little sign that says, "Please let the technician know if you might be or are pregnant." And so we're sitting there. I mean, you're getting a little silly because we've been there for 3 hours, and I'm like, "Hey, Kins," I'm like, "You pregnant?" She's like, "Dad, I'm 10. That's a ridiculous question." She's like, "Of course not." She's like, "Are you pregnant?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Then you'd be a seahorse because that's the only guy that can get pregnant." I was like, man, she's on one right now. So yeah, she had a dance party in her bedroom at 9:00.
Stuff. Yeah.
It basically, yeah, had a dance party at 9:00 instead of going to bed and fractured her wrist. So she'll be okay, but pretty funny stuff. And then today I get this text, same child, and she was writing a paragraph in school. And this is so funny. Like, kids are hilarious. And if you've got them, you know all about it. For everybody out there, Mom, I was writing a paragraph at school, well, to myself, about Taylor Swift, and I accidentally wrote a lyric. So anyway, having kids is fun. Sometimes they screw up, but so does your hockey team, and we still support that one. So anyway, random fun stuff this week. This is what the playoffs are like. You can't plan for anything. So, kind of fun stuff. So yeah, go buy one of our shirts, support us, because I mean, we'd appreciate it if you did. And we want to keep doing stuff like this. And to be perfectly honest, all the money that we make first is obviously going to pay these things off. And then it goes back into doing other podcast stuff. And anybody that follows our show knows that we do it right. We give away cool stuff. We do, I don't know, we do stuff. We've done golf balls. We've done the summer skates.
We do stuff.
Yeah, we do things. So we've given away headphones. I think these guys I still got. So, we make things happen. Maybe we'll buy you a cameo or something. I don't know. So let's do a quick recap of everything and we can go to bed. Canucks went 5-4 in a game where, depending on where you're at in your fan journey as a Canuck fan, you either thought that it was over and let's just start getting ready for game 2, or you're one of the ones that actually has paid attention this season and knew that this game actually was not over at all. And lo and behold, it wasn't. And here we are talking about a series lead 1-0. Dak, Joe, Miller, Zadorov, Garley, and Lindholm all getting goals today. Pedersen getting there. Shilov's started bad, finished great. Rick Tocchet probably just cementing his Jack Adams trophy. That's a lot of things to go over. Connor McDavid, did you see this stat? So not only did he not have a shot, get this. I don't know if you probably don't have a TV in there. This was the first time in Connor McDavid's career that he was held without a shot in the postseason.
Yeah. Wild.
Pour one out for the Canucks defensive game tonight. Pretty freaking impressive.
And only one penalty.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, I didn't see it. I was in the car, so, was it bad?
Well, there
was too many men?
No, there was the Zadorov one and then the too many men penalty.
But the Zadorov one was the incidental or coincidental one.
Yeah.
So he took off a good player and
discipline, like we've been talking about, discipline.
Yeah. So this man, I said this right before we went on to the wife. I said, I still can't figure this team out because the game was so drunk. It went from like, here we go again to we got to stop thinking like this because they're going to come back to holy crap. They just scored 2 goals. They just need to close it out now. And here we are. Like, we're going into Friday thinking like, man, maybe all those Edmonton critics that were writing off the Canucks, like maybe they need to remember what the Canucks did all season. Because
I saw a lot of brackets that said 4-0
they're done.
They're not right now. So
like, it's tough not to be a Homer fan because that's what we do. But you have to give the Canucks a realistic chance in this series. If they're not going to play like that in game 2, Edmonton's going to react. They're going to readjust, and they're going to be out for bear in game 2.
Oh, 100%.
But at the same time, like, do I think the Canucks could also win game 2? Sure. I think if they play a little bit smarter and don't have those gaffes, I think there's a lot of great signs. But I mean, let's not write off Edmonton either.
Yeah, Edmonton still has by betting odds, they're still the favorite to win the Stanley Cup, the highest odds to win. The lowest odds to win the Stanley Cup are the Vancouver Canucks, and they're lower than Carolina, who's already lost 2 games.
That's wild.
Like, I know this team is an underdog. That's not lost on me. I know how good this Edmonton squad is.
Mm-hmm.
This Vancouver Canucks team is a good team that's
They're
very
plucky.
well coached, and they can hang with this squad. And I really feel like it's going to be more of a series than I think a lot of people were expecting.
How about that Connor Garland goal?
Oh, man.
It was almost the same goal that Shilov's let in, honestly. Just like a goal that he probably
There's a bunch of weird goals in this game already.
Yeah. I mean, Zadorov was probably, I'd say that's a weird goal, but he's scored that so many times this season.
Wasn't a whole lot different than the bomb that Ekholm scored, right?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Man, weird. I don't have anything else to say. Like, these Canucks games take a lot out of me. I'm finding, like, even now in this point in my fandom, it was one thing when the playoffs were crazy back in the day. This is a whole other level. This is a whole other thing. I don't know how you're holding up from game to game. I know Steve is losing his mind, it seems. Like, I don't think that guy even wants to text in, but he has to say something or he's going to lose it. So it's just absolutely bonkers. Let's go.
Okay.
Vancouver Canucks won the game. Holy crap. This is awesome.
Holy crap.
You're doing it, Peter. You're doing it, Peter. You're doing it. McDavid looked like tonsils out there, absolutely useless. And that's my joke. I hope it catches on. This is a PP1 podcast playoff post-game show on the Hockey Podcast Network. Shout out to the network. Also with the DraftKings and the promo code and the THPN. Make sure you get on that. Folks, game 2 is on Friday. I hope to catch it at the campground for the ball tournament. I really do, but I will catch game 3 for sure at home on Sunday night. Yeah. Canucks up 1 game against the Edmonton Oilers on behalf of Teddy, Mr. Third Line Vibes himself. I'm Mr. Playoff Towel Merchant, Ryan Hank. Have a wonderful evening. Go Canucks, go. Peace out.